It's tough to do videos at a time like this. It is, and I've seen that comment on other videos on this channel. So I understand this isn't really entertainment of such, but it's on every channel. So hey, and WrestleMania was dramatically altered because of this. Sports are dead because of this. So it is somewhat of an entertainment topic because it is affecting everything in the entertainment world. So what we're trying to do right now is I think there's a lot of people looking for a date. So people who are saying 18 months. This is going to take 18 months. Okay, so and then what? Because here's the other problem. So let's just say that COVID. I'm allowed to mention it. I'm allowed to mention it. You can still get monetized if you mention it, but you just can't give out false crap information. So I'm doing my best in this not to give out false crap information. Here's the problem with the 18 months. What if this is seasonal? What if this mutates like a flu or like a cold and every year it can come back? So every year it cycles and it comes back and it comes back and it comes back. This becomes forever without a vaccine or without a medical treatment. Now, the good news is that while this is, in my eyes, worst case scenario, and a lot of people have latched onto it, there are a lot of people who've latched onto it and gone, yep, that's our number. That's our number. I'm sticking to that. That's realistic. This is going to go on for 18 months. The problem with that is this. Back in January, when this whole thing was starting up, I didn't hear anybody saying for the next 2 years we're going to be locked in our houses. So now that we're all kind of locked in our houses and there are a lot of people going through a lot of stress every day, I think there are a lot of people looking for complete and total certainty where there isn't any. So people will latch onto the worst case scenario. Now, the things that get forgotten here is we need medical testing. We need testing on a wide scale. We need that testing to be immediate. So when I hear about tests here in Canada where you get tested and then you don't know for 9 days whether or not you have it, that's unacceptable. When I hear about tests in the States where I want to get tested, I'm sick. Well, you can't because you're not sick enough to get tested. That's unacceptable. We need to be able to test as many people as possible so we have a better idea of how this chart needs to be filled out. We need to know how many people have this. We get a better idea of mortality rate, and then we get a better idea of where the next hotspot's going to show up. So those are really, really important items that once we have a better grasp on testing, we can have a better grasp on how to get this figured out. Part of the reason that we're all at home and everything's been shut down is they're trying to figure this out on a global scale. They want to make sure they're flattening this curve, and they want to make sure, you know what, we've got to make sure that as many people that can be saved are saved. And that's what everybody wants. So when I see, oh, so-and-so wants as many people to die as possible. No. That's not a thing. And I don't care which side of the political spectrum you're on. That's not a thing. There was a video I watched on YouTube the other day that I can't believe A is still on this platform, B appears to be monetized, and C basically says, yeah, this was all planned and this is all some big plan. No. Okay. Seriously. There is nobody who benefits from an economy being dead. Now, there are people who benefit from investing in an economy while it's low, and then when it comes back, they're really, really well off. But nobody is, if you kill it, then the economy's dead, and ta-da, and then everybody's in trouble because the way that people become billionaires is on the backs of other people. Well, if none of us are working, they're not making money on us at that stage. So yes, they can live on their interest. I know, I get it. But people who have $2 billion really like the idea of having 3. People with 20 really kind of want to have 30. So that's how you get to that billionaire part. Now, tests are really important. So once we see tests more widespread and easier to get, I could just call up and say, hey, they send a medical professional out. They do a test. 15 minutes later, they go, Shannon, you're clear. You can leave the house. Something along the lines of people that are clear. You can go about your daily business, and if you think you might not be, and again, we'll be wearing masks. That's going to be, I think, a reality from here on. My wife and I were talking about it and saying, you know what, even after this is done, so whether it's 18 months from now or 6 months, it doesn't matter. For this video's purpose, I'm saying after it's done, I'm likely still going to wear masks in large crowds. I would be very surprised if I don't. It might be uncomfortable at the beginning, but you get used to it. And then your odds of getting sick of anything drops. This isn't just about, this instance here, what we're going through, but it's about just seasonal flus and colds. We'd see a lot less spread. If I'm an employer, I'm seriously thinking about instituting a mask policy in general. It doesn't really matter. It'd be like, no, you know what? We'll keep them. We'll keep those masks because then I have less to worry about when it comes to somebody on my floor ending up with the flu, getting other people sick, or just getting the flu in general. I will have less outage, less downtime, and I can produce more. So if you are a billionaire businessman, a millionaire businessman, you get people to wear masks. You definitely lessen the spread of viruses around your plant, and you are able to produce more and make more money. So the masks, which are relatively cheap, I know at my old job we had them as well, and they were relatively cheap. We had, I don't know if they were N95, but I know we had like a not surgical style. You guys know what I mean. The kind of mask you see that they're talking about is the N95. We had something like that on my at my workplace, and every now and then people would come in sick and they'd get a mask. And it did tell people stay away from this guy because he's been sick, but we may see that more widespread, and it may lead to less people getting sick, less people dying, which is a good thing. We can all agree that more people alive is a good thing, and that's important. I don't believe I have to clarify that. Now, the biggest issue with this, now from a Canadian standpoint, I'm talking about from a Canadian standpoint, was I live close to Vancouver. Vancouver is a large hub for people coming in from Asia and from all over the world. So it's not a surprise to me that this region got hit. Now it's been elderly care homes that have been hit the worst, and that's where most of the people who are passing away are from, and that's awful. And it is. There is I'm not going to call it a silver lining. The other side of it is there's been less community spread. So the numbers are high, but because we're staying home, they haven't been higher. So again, and I am not too far from an elderly care home myself. And I mean, we gave them a case of Girl Guide cookies, and my wife's been making masks. So if they want masks, I'm pretty sure she gave masks to a nurse from there. Anyways, but the point still being that we're in this time now where they're trying to figure it out. Okay, so right now governments are trying to figure out a way around this, and they want to, because they want the economy to not die. And so with snowbirds coming home from Florida, that definitely increased Canada's numbers in Ontario and parts of Canada. And because again, it didn't originate in Canada, so it came from outside of Canada. But we've seen things in Canada not quite as bad as other places. I'm not going to get all ahead of myself here either and start breaking my arm trying to pat myself on the back for how the country's done, because we're nowhere near clear of this. We haven't even seen the peak yet. But the good news out of BC was there were less people in intensive care and on ventilators today than there were on Friday. So that's an important number, because then you're not weakening your medical system. The other side that I don't think people look at enough is, so let's say that you locally have 10. You have 10 people who have this illness and they have to go to the hospital. Those are 10 spaces being used for those people on top of what was already being used by the medical system. Doctors and nurses haven't been sitting around waiting and twiddling their thumbs for something like this to happen. They've been busy. The hospitals in general are pretty darn busy as it is. And we were already looking at medical systems on both sides of the border that could be strained at the best of times. So you add something like this, you add it, and it's highly communicable, it's highly contagious, and you add it to what was already going on with the medical jobs and all of the caseload that they were dealing with. It's just too much. So we're dealing with a situation where if enough people get sick, then what happens is, let's say I have something happen to me where I need to go to the hospital. I break my leg, I go to the hospital. Well, they don't have any beds for me because there's 6 people in the city that have got COVID, and that filled up the other 6 beds that were left over. So now what? And then you're playing a game where you're trying to figure out where people are going to go, and you have people in the hallways. And we've seen instances in British Columbia here where there have been people in hallways of certain hospitals, and there's been a need for new hospitals in cities just around here. So this has been an issue. It's still an issue, and it definitely is exacerbated by these cases. So Canada, as much as I'm happy to see the numbers haven't exploded yet, I'm saying yet because they still can. It's not a position either that I look at and go, yes, we're good and everything's great. The one thing that I always mention in videos, and people get mad at me when I talk about it, is medical treatments. And I'm not talking about going to crackpot sites. I don't go to crackpot websites where they're talking about this is the cure, this is going to do it. No, 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 no. I go to medical websites. I go to legitimate websites. And one thing that YouTube's made clear is I can talk about this as long as I'm using legitimate sources. There are certain treatments that are in stage 2, and that's really important that they're at that stage, and we'll see whether or not they work. There are certain treatments that it looks like don't work that have been in the stages of looking at. And it's pretty simple. You have your group that's taking whatever medicine, and then you have a group that's taking a placebo. And then you have to follow those groups and say, okay, which one gets better? Does the group that takes the placebo get better just as well as the one that's taking the actual drug? Because if they do, the drug doesn't work. If the drug's really good, then that means that the people who take it will get better, and the people taking the placebo don't. Or at the very least, there's a sizable difference enough that you want to proceed from there. So again, I don't just take crackpot website stuff. There are medical teams from around the world dealing with this. So I have no doubt in my mind that because you have that many people working on it, and you have the code for this virus. One thing about this virus was coronavirus has been under study for years. This was the one thing that they knew. This is the big one. This is the one we have to worry about. At some point, there's a strain of this that could cross over to human beings, and we need to watch it. So they've been studying this for years. They had some idea of its DNA and all of that, and there was already some working idea of how to combat a form of this, and now it's a matter of taking what they've learned and putting it to work against this one, which is what everybody's doing. I know we're all tired. I know there's a lot of depression out there. I know we're all hoping for this to go away, and it's not going to anytime soon. But when people look for a certainty, there isn't one. Because if you're going to tell me, well, 18 months, I'm going to one-up you and go, this could be here forever. Maybe we don't find any kind of a cure. Maybe it's here forever. Then what? So that's the problem. And that's why I'm not taking the pessimistic side. It's tough. It's tough right now to not take that pessimistic side when you see the numbers. That's why today I'm not watching the numbers on TV. I'm not getting into all the graphs and all the big red bars. There's a couple of websites that I look at. I will link them in the description below this video. It just gives me the information, and I go from that. And that's it. And, we'll see how things go from here. I still pay attention to what's going on with the news. The funny thing is when people are like, yeah, you're watching CNN and MSNBC. You realize I have access to news from all over the world, right? Because internet. And no, I don't just watch 1 or 2 sources for news. I watch at least 6. That even includes Fox News. I watch all of them. So it's weird to me because people are like, oh, well, you clearly got this. No. And when it comes to politicians, I think they're all pricks. I honestly do. I'm not a fan of the whole politics thing. I know when I was really young and I had thought about, maybe getting into politics on some level, I had people say, you don't want to do that. You would not survive. They would eat you alive. You would not make it. There's no way. You're not ready to be as nasty as you have to be to get ahead in politics. And so that was where I went, okay, so never mind that then. So the only advice I can give is for people to stay home, stay safe as much as they possibly can. For people on the frontline workers, we know you're going through a lot right now. And again, once this is all said and done, I think we need to look at who our heroes are in this world and why. And the next time that somebody goes, well, they just work at some stupid entry-level job at a restaurant, and once they get a real job, you know what? Those are the people that are still working right now. So I think we can all shut up about how those entry-level jobs aren't important. Because they kind of sort of are. So again, if you work at BK or McDonald's or Wendy's or any of those places, I'm right behind you. You guys deserve whatever you guys get paid. And certainly the companies that make billions and billions of dollars off of those people could afford to probably pay a little bit more. And as a consumer, we could probably afford to pay just a little bit more to make sure they're well compensated for what they're doing right now. There are a lot of people who don't get paid enough, like the security guard at Walmart that got run over by a car in Quebec. likely not being paid enough to deal with that. And here's to hoping he makes a full recovery as we all try to deal with this as well as possible. And some people do well and some people don't. And some days I don't do well either. So that being said, let's try to stay below the line and cross our fingers that we can get through this as a society, as people. And there really isn't anything wrong with optimism, because I'm starting to see on the news now, like, oh, depression's really bad right now. Yeah, you think? You think? You guys are giving us all these scary numbers and all these scary graphs, and we're already locked in our houses as it is. And now you're like, oh wait, people are getting depressed. Yeah, that's how that works. Especially people living alone. If I was living completely alone, if I didn't have my wife in my life right now, I would completely be a basket case, because I would also be one of those workers that would not be off work. I would be working right now, and I would be stressed to the gills. I would be so stressed out right now. So again, let's hope that everybody does the right thing, because it does last longer. This is the thing too. Without any mitigation, it's over faster, because everybody gets it, and then a whole bunch of people don't come through it. But with mitigation, you definitely reduce the amount of people who pass away, and it does take longer, but it also buys time. We're trying to buy time right now. I don't know why they're not talking about this on the news very much. I don't hear it very often. We're trying to buy everybody time. This is a timeout. So it's not just a matter of just this. It's trying to buy time for the medical community and for the scientific community to come up with some manner, whether it's tests combined with some kind of medical treatment. This could mean a vaccine a year from now, right? The earliest date is going to be a year from now for vaccine. I'm not stupid. I know this. But there are other medical treatments out there that may work. There are existing drugs that may very well help people fight this. So they're working on it. They're working on it every day. And there are some people taking this very seriously, as they should. So again, like I said, I will link to some sources in the description for this video. I don't use crackpot sources. I don't sit around listening to Alex Jones talking about gay frogs. I'm not doing that. That's not my thing. And it's important to make sure that you go through your own sources. So again, for people to say, oh, you're watching NBC and CNN, my answer would be, are you just watching Fox, or where are you getting your news? And this is where the problem lies. We need to stop it. We need to stop just consuming our side and shutting everybody else down. Because if we don't talk to each other right now in this, that makes this line go right off the board and right through that ceiling. If we can't work together, we're in deep, deep trouble. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I really appreciate those who are supporting both channels throughout this. And again, I promise I will give you guys as accurate as information as I can. Not misleading anybody. Not going to say anything crazy, because that doesn't do any good either. I also wanted to say, be wary right now of people trying to sell magical cures. Be wary of people who are trying to profit off of this. There are people trying to profit off of this. You need to make sure they don't. So I'm talking like heartless people who are guilty of theft, or running over security guards. This kind of thing, like we need to make sure that people who are behaving their worst during this don't profit from it. All right, on that note, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon.